Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play Steins Gate 0. In the last episode, Rintaro and the others were held hostage by a group of unknown masked men, led by a woman in a very familiar motorcycle suit. However, we were rescued by none other than Yugo Tanuji himself, and it seems that they were after Kaguri Shina. Fortunately, thanks to Tanuji, the assailants were soundly defeated and sent packing with their tails between their legs. But sadly, as a result of their ruckus, the New Year's party that was long planned by Mayuri Shina has now been cancelled, which is rather unfortunate. But to keep Kaguri safe, Rintaro has requested that she remain at the shrine a little bit longer. Ruka has agreed, and Suzuha is also staying there. And it seems that Ruka, speaking of which, has been reminiscing about the events of the past several months. Something tells me that Suzuha is a light sleeper, Ruka. Even Ruka could tell that a lot meant that she was thinking about what happened today. The New Year's party. The mysterious men who burst into the lab. They were holding guns. Not plastic model guns. Real guns. Again, very reminiscent of the events of the Alpha World line. From Ruka's perspective, it was a mystery how they'd even gotten them into Japan. But they were real anyway. They had real guns in their hands and they pointed them at him and others. It hadn't seemed real then, but now the very thought made him shiver. If any of them had squeezed their index fingers just a little, he, Ruka, wouldn't be here right now. And it seems that Kaguri, too, has been traumatized by what's happened. Kaguri Shina moaned softly in her sleep. She must have been really tired after everything that had happened today. She had gone to sleep almost immediately after she laid down, and her short breaths had soon changed into moans. It seems that Kaguri is unconsciously remembering the events that separated her and Mayuri from 2036. When Mayuri asked that Suzuha take her in the time machine to spare her from from further ravages of World War III. But Kaguri didn't want to leave her behind. Was she dreaming of her mother? Well, the utterances in her sleep would certainly suggest that.
Mama. Mayuri. Mama.
Yeah, and this is going to be rather upsetting for Ruka. And also for Suzuha, because Suzuha will now have to explain to Ruka why Kaguri considers Mayuri Shina to be her mother. We'll have to do that at some point. Even that didn't surprise Ruka much. She'd started calling out that name in her sleep several days ago. Kaguri Shina. Mayuri Shina. At first, he just thought it was a coincidence that they had the same last name. But He almost spoke, then stopped. There was so much he wanted to ask, but couldn't. Actually, now that I think about it, explaining the situation to Ruka might not be entirely a bad thing, because after all, in the Alpha World line, Ruka... Well, when it was explained that the future Gadget Lab members had inadvertently created a machine that could send text messages back into the past, which essentially had the power to alter the past, Ruka seemed to actually understand the concept pretty well. He wanted courage. Just a little. The courage to ask them to tell him. He reached under his pillow and felt something hard. It was a cheap toy sword, the kind you could buy at any store. But still, it was his treasure. He held the hilt tight. Looks like he still has the sword. The 980 yen demon sword Samadare. A gift from Hoen Kyoma to Ruka Rushibara. Just another cheap ploy to get Rintaro, for Rintaro to get Ruka to believe his fantasies. Of course, at this point, Rintaro is completely embarrassed that he even made it up in the first place. Suzuha sat up and looked straight at him. He was only barely able to stop himself from looking away. If he did, he wouldn't be able to ask anything. He touched the toy sword once more and slowly opened his mouth to speak. Well, in all honesty, that was the very reason why Rintaro had purchased Samadare for Ruka in the first place, to try and instill courage and self-confidence. A pretty eclectic roundabout way of doing so, but he hoped it worked.
あまねさんはどうして岡部さんのことオカリンおじさんって呼ぶんですか？
There's no hiding it now.
どうしてまゆりちゃんのことまゆ姉さんって呼ぶんですか？どうしてフェイリスさんのことルミ姉さんって呼ぶんですか？
Yeah, time is a strange, complex thing.
僕のことルカ兄さんって呼ぶんですか？
All these questions that Ruka wants answered. And I dare say that he deserves those
まゆり
answers.
ママってまゆりちゃんのことですよね。どうしてかがりさんがまゆりママなんて言うんですか？
I wouldn't think it's fair to leave Ruka in the dark anymore.
私の言えた義理じゃないってことは分かってる。でも知らない方がいいと思う。
Interesting response, because it almost sounded like you were evoking Rintaro Okabe there.
そうやって僕はまた蚊帳の外なんですか？僕だって知りたいです。僕だって皆さんと同じ悩みを
Of course,
共有したいんです。
of course, in the Alpha World line, Rintaro Okabe attempted to do the same thing with Mayuri, trying to keep her safe from the nightmare that was her own demise. Unfortunately, his attempts were ultimately unsuccessful, because Mayuri ended up experiencing her own deaths in the form of nightmares, which basically rendered Rintaro's protective efforts moot.
ルカ兄さん、
教えてもらえませんか？
And now Ruka wants such answers. She looked him straight in the eye for a moment, silently. Ruka simply waited.
オカリンおじさんがさ、ルカ兄さんに事情を言わない理由、私なんとなくわかる気がするんだ。
And if you understand that reason, Suzuha, then you should also understand the reason why he doesn't want to go back to July 28th.
理由ですか？
ルカ兄さんには純粋にこの世界の人でいてほしいんだよ。
Of course, by trying to avoid explaining, you are essentially explaining.
ルカ兄さんだけは今という時間の存在でいてほしいんだ。それがオカリンおじさんの救いなんだ。
僕が救い？
ああ。
そんな。
I wouldn't exactly put it like that, Suzuha. Now that she told him that, he couldn't ask any more questions. Did Rintaro Okabe really think that? He didn't even know. In the end, he would never know anything. And that only made him sadder. The next day, after the attack, I'd arrived just a little before I was supposed to, but the person I was meeting was already there.
お待たせしましたにゃ。
ありがとう。
So, are we meeting favorites? And by the way, we're back to Rintaro's perspective.
近くの席にはしばらく誰も座らせないようにするから、思う存分話すといいにゃ。
Doesn't look like we're meeting favorites herself.
助かる。
And I doubt we're meeting Maho. So that just leaves, this individual. I sipped some fresh coffee as I observed the person in front of me. You were my third guess. Moeka Kiryu. She was expressionless as ever, and there was no way to tell what she was thinking.
話って。
腕の調子はどうだ？
腕？
ああ。もう大丈夫なのか？
Bit of a fishing expedition, but this is to see whether or not Moeka was in fact the one dressed in the motorcycle suit. The girl in the motorcycle suit yesterday. She'd blocked Suzuha's kick with her arm. Suzuha had told me later that her kick had landed pretty hard and that whoever it hit had probably gotten hurt. If that was Moeka...
何を言ってるかわからない。
Normally I would say you're being evasive, but in this case, I
そうか。
think I believe you. And something tells me that even if we were to see your left arm, it wouldn't be wrapped in bandages, which would rule you out as our mystery suspect. But I still didn't know if Moeka was
Udeo.
innocent.
見せてもらってもいいか？
腕？
ああ。左の腕の袖をまくってもらいたい。
Just to be sure.
どうして？
ダメか？
Of course we can't exactly tip our hand either. But we have to let, if she's not the suspect, then we can let Moeka know of what happened. Moeka sighed, as if she were annoyed. She didn't seem upset or worried at all, just irritated. And before we do, we got a line from of Mayuri. Ocarine, big trouble. What's up? Can it wait? Sorry, I can't help with that. Well, be polite. What's up? You remember what happened yesterday, right? So I was just talking with Nai on Rhine. And then she told me about her dreams for the future. Nai's dreams, huh? Well, it's, not really suspicious for a child to have dreams. What were they? First one. She wants to get good at badminton. Fair enough. You said first. Does that mean there's a second? Second, she wants to get good at fighting games, like Tekken and Street Fighter. And we have our response is a Mayushi emoji. Third, surprised Upa. She wants to decorate the Braunchu workshop so it looks pretty. Oh my god, there's a fourth one. She wants a telescope. Is that a dream? She said lately that she liked looking at the stars. She must have gotten it from you. Jealous? She seems like she's interested in space. Nice, so strong. She's a very strong girl. You're right. Oh, Mayushi is okay too. We're glad to hear that. Now back to Moeka. And that made me worried. Why was she so calm? Probably because she doesn't really express her emotions on the surface. Moeka rolled up her sleeve like I asked her to. His skin was a deathly pale white. But I'm more interested in what we're not seeing than what we are seeing. What we're seeing is Moeka's forearm. What we're not seeing is any bruises or bandages. There was nothing else. There were no bruises and no traces of her trying to hide something with foundation. Of course, there were also no bandages.
しまってくれ。
Our caution has paid off. You are not the suspect. At least not anymore. You've been ruled out. Which basically means that we're now obligated to tell you about that. As compensation. Payment, you might ask. You might say. Moeka tilted her head just a little and rolled her sleeve back down. The girl in the motorcycle suit wasn't Moeka. This wasn't a big surprise. I'd already assumed that she wasn't. Come to think of it, Moeka knew that Kaguru Shina was with us a long time ago. There was no need to attack when so many people were around. Moeka had nothing to do with this. Knowing that for sure was progress. But that left me with a new problem. Who was the woman in the motorcycle suit then? Question for later. In order to allay Moeka's suspicions, I asked her for a report on her research and told her to keep it up. Then I said goodbye and headed to my next destination. This was my next destination. The Braunchu workshop? It took real dedication to open a store like this on the 2nd of January. Looks like we're going to converse with Tanuji, it seems. I took a deep breath, steeled myself, and went inside.
失礼します。
I'd like to speak to the manager, please.
やっと来やがったか。
Also, I wish to register a complaint. He sounded like he was waiting for me.
昨日の説明をしに来たんだろ?
That in and of itself, but looks like we're steeling ourselves up to delve into more than just what happened. Tanuji had been really pushy about last night, so I told him I'd explain today.
で、昨日のは一体何だったんだ?
Nothing of our own doing, I can assure you.
その前に一つ確認したいんですが、昨日のあれはあなたの差し金じゃないですよね。
Looks like we're pushing all we're going all in. We're tipping our hand and cashing in all our chips. Going for broke. Tanuji always looked angry, but now he looked even more pissed off.
俺の? それは一体どういう意味だ? なんで俺が あんな連中をおめんとこにやんなきゃならねえ。
Keeping our fingers crossed that Tanuji is not involved with CERN on the Beta World line and that he's just going to behave the usual way.
わかりませんか？
わかるわけねえだろ、んなもん。
それは。
Well, at least we can ascertain that, regardless of whether Tanuji was involved or not, I think it's safe to assume that those men are not CERN rounders. I checked to see that Nye was nearby before I spoke.
あなたがラウンダーだからですよ。ミスター・フェルディナント・ブラウン。いや、FB と呼んだ方がいいですか？
As I said, we're going for broke. No going back now. Ferdinand Braun. Karl Ferdinand Braun, born 1850, died 1918. German. Winner of the 1909 Nobel Prize in Physics, inventor of the Braun tube. Of course, we learned all this in the Alpha World line from Mr. FB himself, Yugo Tanuji, proprietor of the Braun tube workshop. You let me down, Tanuji. I thought you would have gotten angry at this point and said, "Who the hell are you talking about? Is this one of your fantasies again?" But that expression tells me all that I need to know. So CERN is no longer the top power players on the Beta World line, with the other factions now vying for control of the time machine and space-time, and maybe even something else besides. But it looks like CERN aren't entirely out of the running either, and that's probably a good idea to let Nye out of this conversation so not to destroy her innocence. His expression quickly turned blank.
てめえ。
In all honesty, Yugo, I was hoping that you wouldn't respond that way, but yeah, as I said, you let me down.
お父さん？
Of course, it goes without saying that on the very world line in which we learned that Yugo Tanuji was the CERN handler known as FB, Nye Tanuji's innocence was destroyed that day. And I have no wish to dredge up those memories of that trauma again. Nye must have sensed the change in her dad's mood, because she turned towards him.
どうしたの？
どうしたって何がだ？
急に怖い顔したから。
I feel your pain, Nye.
そうか？お父さんはいつも通りだぞ。ほら。
To be fair, I'd hoped we never had to broach the subject ever again, but unfortunately, a hand is forced.
うん。
Nye reluctantly believes her father, but she's still
ほら、
upset.
分かったらいい子だから外で。ああ、いやいや、そこでテレビでも見てな。な。
You can watch television all day and eat snacks. But she doesn't seem particularly thrilled about that. Nye still seemed concerned, but did as she was told and sat in the chair in front of the CRT TV. The very same CRT that is inadvertently the lifter for the PhoneWave TBA, which is somewhere up there. Well, it would be up there because that's where the development room is. The TV was playing a New Year's comedy program.
やはり娘には知られたくはないんですね。
And before you ask, this is not Haruin Kiyoma's Chinibiu hour. We're playing for keeps, Tanuji. Tanuji said nothing, but motioned for me to sit in a chair away from her. Instead of his usual yelling, he was ice cold. I started sweating despite the winter chill. But now that I'd brought it up, it was too late to do anything about it. I sat down in the small seat, legs tense. I was ready to run at any moment. Because if Tanuji pulls a pistol on us, we're basically up the creek without any paddles whatsoever.
おめえ、何を言ってやがる。
Of course, we're probably going to have to explain, well, how we know about SERN, what SERN is, and give Tanuji a brief overview of the traumatic experience that we've been through on the Alpha World
ごま
line.
かしても無駄です。
Neither can we, unfortunately.
ごまかすも何も、俺にはおめえが何を言ってるのかさっぱりわからねえな。なんだ、その FB とかなんとかってのは、新手の SNS か？
I expected you to say this, question first, but your tone of voice and your behavior is, not doing you any favors, Tanuji. Social networking services. These are community-oriented websites of varying forms, such as registration-based or invitation-only. These sites include functions that make it easier to communicate with others on the internet. FB doesn't stand for Facebook,
俺は知ってるんで
unfortunately.
す。あなたがセルンのラウンダーだってことを。
Unfortunately, we're not really in a position to blackmail Tanuji, but that's not what we're here to do. And there it is again. That cold stare. His eyes felt like they were boring a hole in me. They were completely different from the eyes of the ordinary Tanuji I knew. Which means that if Tanuji is still FB, then Moeka Kiryu is still involved with the Rounders as M4. They were the eyes of a killer. A cold killer who wasn't even trying to hide his murderous intent.
一応聞いてやるが、おめえのその情報はどこからのもんだ？
I know this is going to be hard for you to believe, Yugo Tanuji, but everything we say from this point is the absolute truth. At least it was on the Alpha World line.
話す必要はありません。
Don't let him intimidate you. You're in control here. Not entirely, Rintaro.
いいから聞かせろや。それくらいの覚悟を決めてここに来たんだろうが。
Well, we've come this far.
話してもどうせあなたは信じない。
そう言わずに茶飲み話としゃれ込もうや。どうせこんな日に客なんか来ねえしな。
In any other situation, you wouldn't even hesitate to kick Rintaro out the door rather than listen to any of his stories. This man worked for SERN. He was a Rounder. What those Rounders did to me in the other world line, I would never forget that. But Tanuji probably didn't work for SERN willingly. He probably had his reasons. I believe he only has one reason, in the form of Nai Tanuji. And since we're here, I suppose we've essentially been given a second chance to tell him the very words that we never got to tell him in the Alpha World line. If you think that committing suicide is the only way to save your daughter from CERN's wrath, or anyone else's wrath for that matter, Yugo Tanuji, you are wrong, sir. Dead wrong. Because you won't be around to protect her if that happens. At least that's how it had felt in the Alpha World line. Of course, the Beta World line might be different, even though this, unfortunately, is not. In this world line, he had never met Suzu Hashida. How much of an effect that had on his life, I didn't know. Tanuji was staring at me, not moving a muscle. Depending on what I said, he was ready to kill me without a word. That's what his body language seemed to convey. Fine, I'll tell you then. It's not like we have nothing to lose, since we have everything to lose. Let's see if you believe it. Time to steel ourselves for the truth. Let's take a walk.
世界線な。到底信じられる話じゃねえな。
Then again, I wouldn't be surprised if SERN weren't telling you the whole truth either.
最初にそう言いましたよ。それに、あなたが信じようが信じまいが関係ない。
Indeed, given what we've been through so far, your beliefs are irrelevant.
俺はあなたの正体を知っている。重要なのはそこだけです。
But we're not here to intimidate Tanuji or to go after SERN this time. In fact, we actually... Can't believe I'm saying this. We actually need their help. I know, ironic, isn't it, adventurers? That in order to fight several new enemies in this beta world line of Steins Gate, we are going to have to rely on the very antagonists who were threatening us before on the Alpha world line.
確かにその通りだ。
If that isn't bitter irony, I don't know what is. He admitted it.
おめえの話はほぼ完璧だ。俺しか知らねえようなことまで知ってやがる。
And it should go without saying that the only reason that we know several of those things is because, well, we had this conversation before. Not necessarily in the past, well, yes in the past, because that conversation took place in August of last year. But, well, you get the idea.
正直、薄気味悪いくらいだ。
Indeed. I wonder if SERN will know how it feels to be on the other side of the looking glass. By making Tanuji admit who he really was, I could assume I'd won the first round of this conversation. We may have won the battle, Rintaro, but we haven't won the war yet. This is when things got hard.
セルンの機密保持は絶対だということは知っています。それに、任務に失敗した者だけでなく、達成した者まで処分されるということも。
I wonder if that's the case in the Beta World line. SERN had always ensured that their rounders died, because in the end they were nothing more than hired thugs and mercenaries themselves. A kind of insurance policy, if you will. The rounders do SERN's dirty work, and then they are expended. No exceptions. And then they kill Mayuri too.
だったら
Looks like we've won round 2. He slowly stood up.
しかし、これは任務とは関係ない。
Indeed, and this has nothing to do with Nai either. What happened yesterday was not our fault. I barely managed to squeak the words out.
機密だってそうです。漏洩したわけじゃない。俺は最初から知っていたに過ぎない。
Indeed, we had them from the moment we returned to the Beta World
だから、
line.
処罰の対象にはならない。違いますか？
In other words, SERN are pretty much out of the loop here. As far as they're concerned,
詭弁だな。
Tanuji's face was right in front of me. His green eyes were boring into me and I couldn't even move.
だが間違っちゃいねえ。
And besides, one would say that SERN has more than their fair share of rivals to deal with. They're not the alpha male anymore. Far from it.
別に俺はセルンから IB への5100とやらを探せとも言われてねえし、おめえらを連れてこいとも言われてね
え。Interesting. So in the beta world line, the CERN rounders were never ordered to search for the IBN 5100. Which I suppose was fair enough. Although I still don't know the exact mechanics of the logistics of how, when Rintaro sent Daru the message of Kurisu's murder, that CERN's intercepting of that email would result in a combined with the effects of the phone wave TBA, would result in a world line shift of epic proportions.
言われてねえことはする必要がねえってことだ。
So in other words, Tanuji and the Rounders are on standby for the moment, while they go on with their everyday lives.
俺がラウンダーだったこともおめえが黙ったりゃ済む。何も困ったことはねえな。
Unfortunately, we're going to have to ask for more carrots. Tanuji was looking past me towards Nai, who was still watching TV. His eyes had changed from those of a beast to those of a parent.
で、おめえの目的は何だ？俺に全て話したってことは何か目的があんだろ。
Indeed. Looks like we'll be needing a favor from Tanuji after all. So when we return, adventurers, we shall try and see what Tanuji knows about these new mysterious antagonists. Whether CERN knows about Strat 4 or Kaguri or anything else for that matter. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.